The Chani app told me to come sit by water today. Chani. You can't see the water, but I'm sitting by a pond at Laurelhurst Park. A duck pond that is the color of Kool-Aid. Chani is an astrology app. She's not sponsoring this video, and she has a nice, concise way of summarizing one's daily astrological transits and puts them in a cute, eloquent form that's kind of poetic. And that's the extent of my following astrology these days. It's new moon in Cancer today. Don't know what that means, don't know what it does, other than that Chani said to come sit by water and journal about my wealth aspirations, and that the flow of the water would help that. So I say that tongue in cheek, but I actually did exactly that. It's like those little boosts are helpful, you know? Why not? Why not take a little bump from the energy of the planetary bodies? Anyhow, welcome to ZEIT Heist. This is my show. I don't know how long this one will be. I'm sitting here in Jurassic Park, and I haven't been. So first of all, this show is all over the place. It is most of the time about metaphysical things. It's sometimes about esoteric practices. It's sometimes about it's whatever I'm thinking about at the time, and trying to reiterate that information in a humorous and helpful way. But basically, this show is just my catharsis and talking about me trying to figure out my life and the universe, mainly figure out what this reality is and what's going on here all the time, every day, and consuming new sources of information from widely varying places to try to arrive at an answer for that, maybe, or at least to learn and grow, to feel more grounded, to feel more balanced and more personally at peace and at ease. So my hope is that this show is spurs you to do the same in your own way, and take from it what you want and throw the rest in the garbage, or recycle it. But you would never throw my words in the garbage. They're too beautiful. They're golden. I'm doing a personal experiment for July, and I'm not looking at pornography. This is not some sort of moral, ethical, or religious thing. I am pretty neutral, I think, at this point on pornography. I'm pro sex work. Some of my friends are sex workers. I'm all for it. I would like to make some myself, actually, solo and with a partner. That's a discussion for a different day, but I think part of my embracing my full self and healing the religious sexual trauma that I grew up with, that it would be, I have a desire to make erotic content. And at some point, when I do so, it's going to be under a different name. So I probably won't advertise it here. But I've got this golden voice, and I'm a writer, so I've thought about, doing some JOI ASMR. Anyway, that's not what I meant to be talking about. I'm taking a break from pornography. This is more of a psychological test and just a desire to connect with my sense of pleasure and body without external uh, stimulation. And also because, you know, there are indications that porn is not healthy for the brain, and that it gives an unrealistic view of sex and of women. And so I just want to give my brain a break from that and see how I feel. I'm doing a couple of things for this month of July to support that and reiterate that. And I like doing these little temporary experiments, and sometimes that leads to a permanent change. But for now, so that doesn't mean I'm not masturbating. Heaven forbid. And if you grew up in the church, then heaven does forbid it, which is weird because God gave us our genitals, but he's like, don't use those except in a marital context. But so my rule was no nudity, no hardcore pornography, but I can still kind of do whatever I want. And so my alternative route has been, I don't know how I stumbled upon this. Actually, yes, I do, and to say that is maybe too vulnerable. But I found these YouTube videos of looking intentionally for something to masturbate to. This couple, this lesbian couple, these Twitch streamer women who don't even make uh, inherently sexy content. They're mostly gamers, and they have a fairly large following on Twitch, and then they post clips to YouTube. But the sweetest thing, see, this is like a lane I never would have discovered, and I find it kind of remarkable, is that yes, they're Twitch streamer girls who simultaneously stream, they live together, but every so often their relationship is so sweet, they'll just start making out with each other on the stream. And I found that very erotic, but in this way that hit my heart, that was like, wow, these people, this is a real couple that loves each other. And seeing that displayed in a way that's not fictional and not exaggerated at all, but is just sincere, was really fucking hot. And I jerked off to it last night. But it told me something too. It helped me understand that, uh, there's probably a part of me that admires that and that wants that sincere, sweet affection and love. And the thing is, I do have that in my life, but like many of us, am bumpy in relationship, and this reminded me that I can also be sweet and loving and erotic and playful with my partner, and that is maybe sometimes more stimulating than more kind of aggressive, rough, hardcore penetration stuff. And that was a nice discovery. It would seem that shouldn't be so novel, but I just hadn't really seen two people who love each other being intimate on screen in quite a long time. It was perhaps more of a staged or what is the word? You know, it's like on a set and they're actors and they're just being paid to do a job and they're pretending to enjoy each other. Um, Maybe a close second or similar thing is like Red GIFs. There's a lot of Reddit users or OnlyFans or a lot of different places where it is real couples. It's amateur stuff, and they are making love and creating homemade porn that is also quite hot. And you can tell in those ones too, when the couples have a deep connection and when they're really making love to each other, even if it's in a fairly intense way. That is also hot. I'm just not engaging with that kind of content for the time being temporarily. Because I have noticed after being married for a long time in my 20s and then being in the dating world again in my 30s, noticing because of that experience a lot of limitations around sex and around masturbation and self-pleasure and orgasm. And I mean, at the root of all of it, I think psychologically setting myself free from things that I was told growing up were bad or dirty or shameful or should be kept quiet. And it's like it took a while to understand that, like, no, it shouldn't. I mean, maybe in a certain polite societal sense, but uh, I'm on a journey of sexual exploration and awakening and just self discovery and trying to just shed all those layers of thinking that anything is bad and find what I truly like and desire and how I want to engage with that. And that looks different at different times. It's not just one flavor. And I think that's true for everyone, ultimately. So, anyhow, uh, I could see someone thinking that that is. I'm not even going to go down that road. I was going to say I could see someone thinking that that's creepy that I jerked off to two Twitch girls on YouTube, but it's like, come on, man. That little voice, that same voice is like, oh, this is somehow immoral or unethical or creepy or gross, and it's like, in my heart of hearts, actually, I don't think it is, because it's appreciative, and in a certain sense, all of this is one thing, and anything goes, and that was not destructive or harmful to anyone, and I liked it a lot. So where I'm sitting, I'm fine with it. Totally fine if you're on a different journey and you disagree. And it's helpful to talk about these things and just say it. Just say it, even the stuff that feels vulnerable, kind of. And to just be like, actually, who cares? It doesn't matter. It's fine. Why would I hide that part of myself? I would rather just say it than keep part of it separate or quiet. Pause. I'll talk about my sexuality to the entire internet, but not when someone is walking behind me on the trail for 60 seconds, you know. That would be too far. That's too vulnerable. At least right now it is. So yesterday, I just got back last night from Seattle, and I was at an Amma conference, or conference isn't quite the right word. It was Amma's tour. Amma, AMMA, she is known as the hugging saint. And this is a woman who's in her early 70s who has had a very particular, unique niche of spiritual work and healing, where she travels around the world and she puts on these free events. And she is Indian. Did I say that? She is from India. She is, I believe, an a very enlightened being, whatever that means. She's awakened. She's realized. Um, she has achieved. I don't even know. I don't really know the words for it, other than that she has tapped into universal love in a way that is pretty undeniable, and it has impacted millions of people's lives at this point. Because she has been doing this for, gosh, more than 50 years, if I'm not mistaken, and has hugged something like 2.3 million people and counting. So go look at her website. I'll link it in the description. And I had never even heard of this person until about 2 months ago. She hadn't been touring since COVID, but my roommate spoke incredibly highly of her work and had been to see her numerous times over the last 20 years. And it did feel like this synchronistic moment of finding out about this person, and then they just so happened to be coming very near to me in a very short amount of time. So her events are completely free. They're open to anyone. This one was held at a massive ballroom at a Hyatt hotel in Bellevue, Washington. And there are photos of it online already on Instagram of that specific event that I was at. There, I would estimate that room holds 2 to 3,000 people. It's hard. I'm not good with that stuff, but um, and I know that on the surface can sound like kind of a gimmick. It sounds like a sweet thing. Oh, she gives people hugs. She's sharing love in that way. Like, cool. That sounds good. That's a good thing to do in the world. And her organization um, does all sorts of charitable things and philanthropic efforts. But it was this sort of thing, and this has happened a number of times on my path, which was just like I heard about her and the passion with which my roommate was speaking, and I was like, better go see her. This is a yes. Like, and I even leading up to it had a little bit of hesitation and trepidation of like, do I want to drive 3 hours to get a fucking hug? Like, is it really, telling myself a story already and kind of taking the air out of it? Like, is it worth driving up there and finding a place to stay and spending gas and all that? And the answer is yes. For me, yes, it ended up being absolutely worth it because it's not just the hug. It is being in the presence of this person who, if you are energetically sensitive, or if you have a strong intuition, or if you have been doing any sort of healing work on chakras, body, nervous system, if you are open to these things and have been on almost any kind of spiritual journey, then I would tend to think that you would also feel a difference in the presence of this person. Their energy and the love that they are radiating just is off the charts. And, I was telling a friend about it earlier, or texting, trying to describe what this was, and just saying, a lot of you, especially if you're watching this show, you are intuitive, you are sensitive to other people's energy. You can feel when a place feels sketchy, or you can feel when someone has just a really balanced, beautiful energy that they're working on themselves, and that what they're radiating is love and goodness and peace, and or not. You can feel when someone's energy is tense, or there's like a lot of held trauma or anger, and people who are putting off these pulsations that's just like, I think I gotta get some distance from this person. It does not feel good to be near them. So before the hugging commences for the whole group, everyone is in this massive ballroom seated, and the swamis that travel with her give a little introduction, and then she comes out and sits on the stage and leads everyone in a short-ish 20-minute meditation and a prayer for peace. And I ended up sitting next to this man, he was from India, and he was a Amma devotee. He is one. He was probably in his 50s or so. And it ended up having such an impact on me to sit next to him, particularly because he was so passionate and just enamored with Amma, and was fully convinced that she is basically a living embodiment of Christ, or of the Buddha, or whatever term for an enlightened being you want to put in there. That she is God in the flesh, and that her work and what she does is far beyond our human understanding. And he would say things like, she's always with you at every moment, and you weren't drawn to see her here, she drew you to see her, because she knew that you were ready and that you needed it, and that this was the time. And he said, I get up every morning and I pray to her. I thank her for her love and for her presence with me at all times, and all these kinds of things. And he was just like, you reach this moment of full surrender to Amma, where her love overwhelms you, and you are seated in that ease through all of life's stresses and hindrances and blocks and challenges, that you feel the freedom of a mother's love with you at all times, and that the work that she's doing in the world is actually that unlimited, kind of, that it can reach whoever would like to receive it and tap into it, even when they are not physically in her presence. And so he told me all this before she came on stage. And at this point in life, everything he was saying, I was like, sounds about right to me. I'm down. I'm down. Doesn't mean that Amma is the only one true God. Is there only one person who's embodying Christ or Christ consciousness alive on this earth right now? No. Is that only available to one person at a time in history? No. I think there are a number of beings alive on this earth who are awakened to that wavelength, whatever it is, or they have achieved that channel, that level of enlightenment, and that they are going about the world doing their own spiritual work in whatever way it may look like. And to be clear, the whole thing with Amma is that she is a mirror reflecting back your own divinity. That's the whole point. Maybe not everybody sees it that way or takes that from it, but it's like she is powerful and special, and it's not exclusive to her. She has arrived at something that she's trying to give to all of us, and something that we already have, we just don't know we have it yet. And that idea to me is no different than the alchemical process of awakening through magic, or non-dualism in Vedanta, or being saved in Christianity, or maybe that one's a little different, but it's not in conflict with these other spiritual ideas. It's just like another expression, it seems to be another reflection of that same basic idea of just we're all God, always, all the time. I know people don't like that word. You don't have to use it. We're all the universe. We're all one single consciousness, and we can be cognitively aware of that, but it's a different thing to become realized. And I have not experienced that yet. I am still on the side of mentally having a general understanding of what that is, but I have not reached samadhi or experienced, the complete nothingness that is behind all of this. I've not reached a state where my body and mind and my thoughts disappear, and I am so utterly in the oneness that transforms my life from there forward. So all that to say, I think it's a very real thing, and Amma has got it, and when you're in her presence, you can tell. And during the meditation, oh yeah, one of the things he told me, this man sitting next to me, was that she can hear our conversation right now, and that she's communicating with us all the time if we're listening. And so I played with that idea because I had heard similar reports from my roommate and from a couple other people that it's like when you're with her, she's mentally, astrally, energetically conversing with you or sending you love, or is just sending out such pulsations of pure divine love that you can dip into that. You can lean into it harder. And so during her meditations, I felt like she was communicating with me specifically, and not as if I was singled out in the crowd and she's like, oh, I'm glad Josh is here. I'm going to send him some messages because he's so special and he's been working so hard. It's like, no, I think she was talking to everybody and saying different things to each one. And it's not the same as an AI having 3,000 simultaneous conversations because it has the operating power to do so and keep track of all that. It's not that linear, but it was important that I was there in her presence and had the willingness and the sincerity to open myself up to that and to receive whatever she was sending. And I got very distinct messages and astral visions, in meditation, very different than what I would have gotten alone at home meditating by myself. So there was like a different flavor or a different channel, maybe, that I was tuned into. And then later in the day, and I found another important aspect is that I found myself crying and not even really sure why, other than that the level of intensity of the love that she was giving off was so motherly. It was so all encompassing and beautiful and fully accepting, and was different than I've experienced from my earthly mother or from anyone, really. It was this, higher idea of a divine feminine, almost looking over the entire course of my life, especially the moments that I felt ashamed of. And her presence was there, and it was completely non-judgmental. And it was like she was showing me that every one of those moments was also a divine moment, that there was no sin. I had done nothing wrong ever, have never done anything wrong, and neither have you. Have never done anything sinful, let's say, because that's not real. And at every moment, what I was doing was being God, interacting with God. And that hit me pretty hard, because that is one of my hang-ups in this life, or that's one of the things I'm working on all the time, is to set myself free from guilt and shame and anxiety, and thinking that I'm not good enough, that I've been lazy, that I haven't worked hard enough spiritually or physically, that I'm somehow inadequate. And she was just like, you've been God the whole time, and you're God now, and it's all right. All of that stuff is all right. And as I'm saying those words, that is true for you. And it's true for that duck. Oh man. Okay, we're just gonna be in this moment together. So now that phenomenon is known as quacking on the truth. And that is sometimes when there's a particularly strong true message coming through, you'll hear a duck quack. But fucking A, no joke. You're God right now. And so are those ducks. So are those plants. So is this dirt. So is my little dad hat that I'm wearing because my hair's all greasy and unwashed. Because I had to get out of my house at 10 a.m. without showering and without really being able to plan my day well, because others were causing a ruckus in a way that I didn't want to be around. And I was like, all right, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Anyway, that was me too, as God, being like, all right, I got to get out of my house because my annoying landlord is here, like crashing around in the basement where I live. And then the hug itself, I think I'm going to keep the hug to myself. And what happened there, but that because there's so many people filing in to receive a hug from Amma, she has many dozens of volunteers who are helping. You get a little token, and you go up at a certain time, and you get, maybe 7 seconds total, and it all feels like kind of a circus a little bit, but not a bad one. It's actually pretty well run, because they don't want people, crying at her feet for 20 minutes and telling their whole life story, which I'm sure used to happen. And so they were like, all right, we got to tighten this up because there's 3,000 people that want to get a hug. But I will say that you go up there and you sort of lean your head on her shoulder, and she embraces your head in her hands and whispers in your ear. And what she said, I'm going to keep to myself, but I did share it with the two other friends that I was there with, and they have expressed that she has always told them something different, even though they've seen her 15 or 20 times. And so it's not just some stock phrase that she's like, Om Shanti, bless you, or something. It's, I believe that she can energetically see or tell or whatever whatever divine thing that she is, she's able to tell the difference between each individual person and even get like a rapid fire set of information of what they need to hear and the blessing that they need to receive. And it is in her native tongue. It's not Hindi, but it is a particular different language. I forget. But the most important part is that it's a blessing. It's a blessing, and that you showed up with reverence and respect and love and desire to connect with her, even for a few moments. And that because of that, she blesses you, and that her devotees and even the people that I went to the event with are like, it's real serious. It's a serious blessing. It's not just some flippant thing that is like, somebody. It's not a small thing, and I believe that, even though at this moment I'm not entirely sure what it meant or what it did, but it had an effect on me. I think that effect is still going to be playing itself out. It's over the next weeks and months. So I would highly recommend it. She's on tour now, and just go to the website and see if she's coming to your city or somewhere nearby. And the events are completely free. Expect to be there all day. There is a dining hall. Her volunteers make delicious Indian food that is all vegetarian. That you do have to pay for, but uh, it was an utterly unique experience. And if and when she comes here again, I will go, um, because it felt so incredibly good to be in her presence, and is just such an interesting thing that this is happening, that this is her work in this life. Anything else? Anything else? I think that's a good place to stop. Just keep it kind of a short one, talking about jerking off and then talking about Amma, the most enlightened being probably currently alive. Makes sense to me, you know, talking about the sacred sexual and then the divine feminine. That tracks. But anyway, thank you for listening to this show. You can join my Patreon for free. There's a bunch of other stuff on there that I don't share publicly, a lot of art and short films and essays, and it's a bunch of backlog episodes from when it was just a radio show. And there's links for you to support me if you want to send me a little cashola on PayPal or Venmo or Cash App. This is what I do. I make art and I make videos and I do this show. And it means a lot to me to do this, to be able to share these ideas and to hear people's feedback that it actually has an effect on them and that it is useful and helps their own way of thinking or their own path. And so if you appreciate what I'm doing, trying to figure this out and speaking out loud about it as you're trying to figure your life out, then if you have the means, I'd be very grateful for any amount that you would like to send. And those links are in the description. But otherwise, thank you for being here. Thanks for hanging out. I'm glad we got to see some ducks. Masturbate more if you want to, and go see Amma. And Take care of yourself, be kind, don't get discouraged. I know it seems like shit is falling apart constantly, but remain hopeful and believe that there are things going on behind the scenes in a good way that we don't understand, and that I truly believe we will be all right. So, as much as you can, drink water, calm your nervous system, take deep breaths, and just, with everything you can, trust that this is actually okay instead of falling apart all the time. And the more that you lean into that ease, it continues to be okay, and that you will be taken care of, and that you'll take care of yourself. All right. Love you. Goodbye.